that sound. I don't know why, but I had to do. All right. So now, Miss Lindsay, I'm going to be giving you slide control. I just have to find your name first in my list. Yes, spotlighted you. Slide control. Oh, this is weird. You're not in my list.
I'm okay to tell you to advance. It doesn't bother me.
This did not happen the other night, but yeah, you're not in my list to be able to spotlight, so that is strange. Yeah, just let me know and I will push your slide forward.
Sure, no worries. Okay. So yeah, my name is Lindsay Crumby, and I work with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and our Division of Food Distribution. And I am one of our grants administrators who manages 3 USDA grants that we have. But the largest grant that I'm here to talk about is our local food purchase assistance cooperative agreement grant program. And so now I'm going to turn off my camera so I can see the screen. Okay. So, all right, you can go ahead and to the next one. So, the general purpose of the LFPA grant program is to provide supply chain resiliency among not just our producer network within the state, but then also when it comes to bringing local foods to our communities. So, with this grant program, we were awarded by the USDA a little over $11 million, and we have these funds authorized through August of 2025. And there are a few aims of what we need to use these funds for. So, first and foremost, we get to exclusively purchase local and regional foods. And for the most part, we're purchasing straight here within our 120 counties of the state. But depending on the situation and kind of where the distributions are going, there are instances where we are purchasing, say, in like a neighboring county in a state that touches us. But for the most part, we're focusing and prioritizing our Kentucky farmers. With that, we are also accepting a wide variety of unprocessed or minimally processed items. So that's anywhere from your typical produce items to meat, eggs, dairy products, poultry. Pretty much anything that you can buy or that you can grow here in Kentucky is potentially eligible for this program. The best part about what we're able to do with these funds is not only do we purchase them to give them away to the communities for free, but we're buying them from our producers at their commodity retail value. So we're not interested in wholesale pricing. We want whatever your number one or whatever the highest quality equivalent of your product is, and we will buy them from you at that retail value that you would typically sell it from. Because the whole purpose too is to not just give you additional opportunity, but the economic part is to try and help grow your agribusiness throughout your time in the program. With the purchases that we've got, not only the financial benefit, but the community benefit is that we turn around and take all of these procurements that we've got, and we get to give them away to the public for free. There are no rules or requirements on who is entitled to our foods. And so that's the way that we're able to also make targeted distributions across the state in our most underserved and low income areas. Okay, you can go to the next one. So within LFPA for Kentucky, we decided to take on 3 tracks. And so most states with these funds chose to stick with their food bank network, but we decided that there was more opportunity, especially as far as commercial and retail outlets go, that could be tapped into with this program. Next slide, please. So we've got 3 tracks. The first track is we are utilizing our expansive and amazing network of food banks. So we have 7 member food banks here in the state of Kentucky, 4 of which are here within the county lines. And then we do have 3 that technically are right across the border in neighboring cities, but those food banks work with us to serve our Kentucky counties. So if you are interested in working with the food bank network here in the state, whether it's your local one or if you'd like to travel around the state with us and move your product, then you will be able to not just help your local community, but the statewide community and get your agricultural products into different places. The second track that we've got is frozen meals, and we are doing that in partnership with God's Pantry out of Lexington, who is also contracting with one of our food banks that is based in Cincinnati, Ohio, called Free Store Food Bank. And with that one, they are taking what they buy from farmers like you all, and they are turning around, processing them down into delicious meals, both individual, and then now we're moving into family size, kind of the bulk serving size meals, and they are going to be something that is a quick heat up within 10 to 15 minutes. That way a family, our time is valuable. We don't always have time to cook a full meal, so this is a way to still bring that local component into Kentuckians homes, but not have them have to process down a squash or tomatoes and things of that nature that they get. Then the third opportunity, which is our most expansive one, is food boxes. And with these food boxes, we had a statewide solicitation where we looked for private vendors who could aggregate and distribute for us with these funds. And so our partners there are Creation Gardens, or What Chefs Want. They also have 3 sub-agreement holders at this time, which are Black Soil Kentucky, based in Lexington, Locals Food Hub, which is based in Frankfort, and then Need More Acres, based out of Scottsville, Kentucky. And so what these people are doing is they're doing the same thing. They are making relationships with farmers, buying them, aggregating them, and then they are responsible for boxing them and then partnering with organizations within our communities in order to get these foods out to those who need it. Additionally, on our less than statewide contracts, so people who have specific focus areas, whereas Creation Gardens and their subs, they cover the whole state. We've got 3 who are assigned to smaller areas. So Central Kentucky Growers Association, they're based out of Winchester. Homegrown Direct, out of Georgetown. Homegrown Direct is based out of Georgetown, and then Food Chain based in Lexington. All the same, you can sell into any or all of these tracks and all of these partners, but each of them has a little bit of a different target for who is to receive their boxes. But overall, it's a really, really good opportunity to either expand what you already do, or if you're interested in finding new partners and ways to get your products out there. Next slide, please. So I'll give you a little bit of a overlook of what we've been able to do with our funds thus far. And so this was my Q3, so Q3 report that ended on September 31st. And at that time, our farmer impact, which means direct purchasing, which is the money that goes directly into my farmers' pockets, was a little over $820,000. With that, we were able to produce almost 7,000 frozen meals. A little over 4,000 boxes went out. And then at that time, we also were pretty exclusively socially disadvantaged. And that's something too that, I forgot to mention that. So one thing that we also get to prioritize along with our purchasing is that if you self-identify as socially disadvantaged, which there's a list of categories that we provide for you, then that means that we can choose to procure, buy commodities with you over those who do not self-identify. So that's that sustainability part. Now, I will say over the course of October and November, our numbers, I've not published them yet, but we're actually looking at almost $1.2 million that we've spent direct to farmers. So in just another 4-ish weeks after these numbers, we've grown to almost doubled our meals. And then our boxes, we went from the little over 4,000 to almost 15,000 boxes in just the last month. So we're kicking it into gear, and my vendors, they are ready to start off the new year big. And so I'm trying to find them farmers and make these connections to get these boxes and these meals out to the public. Okay, next slide, please. And this is just a quick slide showing you where we report to USDA on the number of self-identified, socially identified farmers that we have participating. And so that means that I want to be transparent with how many people we are helping. So of the 73 farmers that were participating at the end of the third quarter, 91% were socially disadvantaged. Next slide, please. So here is our QR codes. So if you are interested in actually, going ahead and getting some information direct to your inbox, you can sign up on my farmer interest survey on the left there, and that will send your information directly to my inbox, and then I'll reach out to you directly with some more information about who's procuring, what it takes, things of that nature. And then on the right-hand side is my webpage, and that one is just something that you want to bookmark to stay up to date. On that page, you'll see all my up-to-date information for who's currently buying, what they're buying, and then links to our producer guide, which is going to be kind of your LFPA guidebook, so that way you know exactly what to expect, regardless of the track or what stage you are in the program. And then last slide. My last slide here, this is just my contact information. The easiest way to get a hold of me is by email first, because we're going into conference season again. So I won't be in the office physically a lot. I will still be working. I'll just be out on farms, at events, things of that nature. But yeah, if you have any questions or take a moment to digest the information that I've got, look at our website and our resources. And if you think that there are some tracks that you want to talk about and see if you're a good fit, I'm perfectly fine to set up meetings with you. Or if you already know what you want to do and you're ready to submit an offer for sale, then you can contact me and we can work on that as well. And the last plug that I'll give is that I am hosting an office hour for LFPA, and that will be next Friday, December the 15th, which I will copy and paste into the chat. So yeah, next Friday the 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. This is where you can join me to actually get a little bit more of a deep dive, and I'll actually talk through each of my tracks and each of my contractors and be able to tell you exactly what you need to do or how to get ready to be able to submit an offer to sell to them. And then open it up for questions for anyone who joins. So thank you for y'all's time.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Does anybody have any questions for Lindsay? I'm going to go ahead and remove your spotlight. All right. Well, if you have any questions for Lindsay, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will be monitoring that. And next up, we have Frank. Frank, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you. And I am hoping to give you slide control. Let's see. You are in my list. So you should just be able to advance your slides forward.
Hey, let's see here. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Frank Yancey. I'm a district conservationist with NRCS, or that stands for Natural Resource Conservation Service. Let me see if, okay, there we go. And we got our start out of the Dust Bowl. And we've expanded where we were called the Soil Conservation Service, and still a lot of farmers that have dealt with us over the years still calls us soil conservation. We've branched out and we work with all kinds of different things, all the way from just traditional agriculture to wildlife. And what we do, whoops, got carried away there. What we do is work with people in protecting natural resources. And that could be anything from soil to preventing erosion, to better establishing a grazing system, to help protect water, all kinds of different things. And the nice thing about us is we are a voluntary organization. We're not regulatory. So we don't come out and tell you what you're going to do. We try to help you in managing your land. So we do, when we help people, we can do both technical and financial assistance to help protect the resources. And I'll tell you a little bit about both of those. The technical assistance, where we just come out to a landowner's farm and we can give you some ideas of things that you can implement. If you're having problems with erosion, we can talk to you about some of the practices to help prevent that. If you're having problems with your pasture, you've got a lot of cattle, you're not sure how to make the best use of forages or water, we're willing to come out and work with you and talk to you about some of the things that you can do. And also, if after disasters like the tornadoes or the flooding that Kentucky's had in the past few years, we work with communities and helping to offset some of the damage from that. Okay, and financial assistance. We actually can work with you on your farm and provide funding for various things. We provide funding for high tunnels. We provide funding for grazing practices, cropland practices, wildlife, forestry, all types of different things. They are competitive funding, but there's a good chance that you could get the practices that you want to implement on your farm paid for. And then two, the technical assistance I kind of mentioned, but those two avenues we work with farmers. One of our flagship programs is called EQIP, the Environmental Qualities Incentive Program. And that program can help you do many of the things that I mentioned. Of course, rotational grazing of cattle. If you have cropland, it could be putting in grass waterways to help prevent erosion. The high tunnels that I mentioned before, it could be forest stand improvement. So a lot of things fall under that program. And then there's conservation stewardship program. That program's a little bit more involved, while EQIP is typically a 3-year program, and you're getting paid for each practice that you implement as long as it meets our standards and specs, but it's a flat rate. And I call it a one and done type program. You do the practice, you get paid for it, and you're out. You're done with that contract and can start something else. CSP is a little bit more involved. CSP is a 5-year program. You're actually adopting suites of practices that help enhance things that you're doing. Say if you're using sprays on your crop field and want to add to it, it could be doing like something like reduced drop nozzles to help reduce some of the spray. There can be many management practices on that, but you're just taking the conservation practices that you're already doing and just making them better. But that is a little bit more involved. It does require a little bit more record keeping and a little bit more work. But you do get annual payments over 5 years. Another program that we have is ASAP, the Agriculture Conservation Easement Program. And that program usually works with landowners, and especially like in the Fort Campbell area of Kentucky, what they're doing is working on easement programs with some of the farmers in the area where we're protecting that land. So that's been a good one that we've been working with, and that's had a lot of impact, protecting that farmland and keeping it from development. And okay, as far as getting assistance, the best thing anybody can do is come by one of our offices. We're in most counties. And if you come in our office, we can talk to you about some of the things that you would like to implement. If one of the things that we really have to work with folks on is actually going into FSA and helping you get your farm records established. And if you come by our office, we can take you over to FSA, walk you through the whole process. You can turn in an application. And then the next step is usually taking a farm visit, going out to your place, talking to you about the practices you want to implement, walking the land. Maybe we can help identify some things that you don't see or give you some suggestions on how to alleviate some of the issues that you do have. And some of the practices that we have. That's when their cows are getting into the stream, which we try to prevent. There's a lot of different things we can do to help with that. Okay, fencing. Typically, all of our fencing is done for cross fencing to help you rotational graze. We're also trying to exclude cattle or other livestock from streams or other water bodies just to help with the degradation, to prevent the degradation along the stream banks and help provide better quality water for you. We also look at excluding livestock from woodlands to protect those. One of the things that we can't do, unfortunately, is perimeter fence. But if you have any kind of livestock out there and you're just wanting to build a rotational grazing system, we can definitely work with you on that. Cover crops. We do a lot with cover crops. This has become more and more important. And basically what you're doing is protecting that soil, keeping it from eroding, and also keeping the moisture in there. Forest stand improvement, that's another one. We're increasing wildlife habitat and helping to make the forest better, protecting it from plants or diseases. We also work with exotic plants, getting rid of those. And we can come out to your place and talk to you about the land. We work really closely with both Fish and Wildlife and forestry. Okay, livestock watering, and that's been a big one. With that, you're actually dividing your pasture into paddocks, and you can have different kind of watering systems in there. We've done everything from tire watering systems to 4-ball watering systems like that. But you know, water is one of the most important things for livestock health. And with that, you're keeping them out of the ponds. A lot of times you'll go out and you'll see cattle in the ponds or degrading the banks. There's a lot of pollution in the water, and you know, cattle aren't the cleanest animals, but we can help alleviate some of those problems. High tunnels. Here's one that we've been doing a lot of. High tunnels are a great system to have if you're a beginning farmer, if you're interested in growing your business, selling to farmers markets. This is just a wonderful practice. What you're doing is just extending the growing season. Just last week, I was in a high tunnel. It was probably in the 40s outside, wind blowing, freezing cold. Got in the high tunnel, it was 82 degrees. It was great. So you're just extending that season. You're growing vegetables in the ground rather than in raised beds like you would in a traditional greenhouse. Usually you don't have any heating elements in that. So it's all contained within that system. And we can look at additional practices. If someone is interested in a high tunnel, we can also look at doing micro irrigation with them, pollinator. Those are some of the other things that go with high tunnels, but they do require some maintenance. I've had some people think you could just put the high tunnel up and let it go, but you can't. You've got to monitor that temperature very closely, and you can still have a lot of disease and insect problems. And just to give you an idea of some of the accomplishments that we've had, you can read the numbers there. I won't go over them all, but EQIP, you know, we get a lot of funding for EQIP, and this year in particular. And then too, CSP has been a big program for us. I don't think I mentioned the RCPP program, but that's a regional conservation program partnership. And that one actually, we work on various things like nutrient management with farmers. And that one's been really successful. And the EWP, the Emergency Watershed Protection, that one focuses on any disasters in Kentucky with the tornadoes that we've had, and also with the flooding in Kentucky. And we actually provide funding to help communities with issues that could result from debris being down in a creek and the potential that would come after an event like that, having flooding. Okay, and that just kind of talks a little bit about the landscape planning that we do during EWP. So we're just protecting the land and people downstream. Okay, So just to kind of give you a few ideas about some of the things that we do with, like I mentioned, our programs are voluntary, but they do have rules. One of the rules would be don't start any practices before you're actually funded, before you sign a contract. Don't go ahead and do something. Unfortunately, we can't pay for things that have already been done. Another thing that we have to be careful with every practice that we implement, unfortunately, there's a lot of rules to them. We do have a lot of engineered projects that we do, and with that, comes a lot of kind of nitpicky things. But what we're trying to do is for you to get the best use out of each practice that you implement. All our programs are funded competitively. And that's one thing to keep in mind. You may not go in one year. We may not be on, our funding cycles may not be on your timeline, but we're willing to, we'll be glad to work with you and, try to give you the best idea of what, if you need to do something to help get in our programs, we work with you on that, but we can work with you through the whole process. We have an ongoing application period throughout the year, but we do have time where we do get our applications together and do go through a ranking period. All our applications are ranked, and the ones that are highest end up going in the program. Okay, and how to get in touch with us. That shows where you can get in touch with all our local offices, and I will leave my information in the chat. I work a 6-county area from Hopkinsville up to Salem, Kentucky, but we do have conservationists in most every county. Does anybody have any questions? If you have anything, just please leave it in the chat, and I'll be glad to get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. We appreciate it. And I'm going to take a couple seconds here to remove your spotlight and stop your control of the slides. All right. So next, we are going to have Becky with USDA. Becky, I'm going to give you slide control.
Okay. It's new to me, so I'll just be able to advance the screen.
You should be able to, yeah, either with your arrows, or you should be able to use like your mouse and scroll over on the PowerPoint.
Okay, I'm trying to use my mouse and it's not allowing me to do it. Let's try the arrow keys. No, it is not working for me with the arrow keys either.
If you'll take your mouse over onto it and kind of scroll over that bottom left-hand side, there should be some like light little arrows that pop up.
I see. Okay. There we go. Yay.
All right. Without further ado, I will let you take it away.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for allowing us to be a part for this third night or third part of this series with K-Card. Thank you so much for letting us be involved. My name is Becky Fillmeyer. I'm a field specialist with the Rural Business Cooperative Division, or a field specialist for the state of Kentucky. My counterpart is going to be joining us in just a little bit to give some more information to you, but just to give you a little bit more background, we are also a part of USDA Rural Development, or USDA, the Department of Agriculture, but the Rural Development is one of 8 missionaries within the department. Through its 3 agencies, Rural Development has what we refer to as the 3 towers: Rural Housing Service, the Business Cooperative Division, which I work in, and our Rural Utility Services. They offer loans, grants, loan guarantees to help create jobs and support economic development and essential services such as housing, healthcare, first responder services, and equipment for first responders, and also with water and electric and communications infrastructure. We promote economic development by supporting loans to businesses through banks and credit unions and community managed lending pools. We also offer technical assistance and information to help agriculture producers and cooperatives get started and improve the effectiveness, there was the word, of their operations. We also help rural residents to buy safe, rent affordable housing, and also help make health and safety repairs to their homes, support water and sewer systems, and also access to broadband and also array of other business development activities. All of these are activities which are critical in helping rural communities prosper. And that screen's a little large. I don't know if I can make it smaller. Okay, so specifically in rural business, the division that we work in, I wanted to talk tonight more about what we call the Value Added Producers Grant. It is available for agricultural producers who are seeking to further a business activity. So jumping ahead a little bit of myself, but the purpose of the Value Added Producer Grant is to aid producers in the activities related to processing and or marketing of new products. The purpose of the grant is to expand the customer base and to bring a greater share of revenue to you as the producer. Grants are for a maximum amount of $250,000 for working capital grant, or up to $75,000 for the planning grants. Producers must supply 50% of the total project costs. So it's a matching grant or one-to-one. To be eligible for the the VAPG, I'll shorten it there. Borrowers must be either independent producers, agricultural producer groups, farm or rancher cooperatives, or a majority controlled producer-based business venture. Eligible uses of funding could be for product packaging and labeling, ingredients, promotional materials, advertising, or for feasibility studies. And if I advance myself here, make sure I'm not missing anything. So wanted to also touch on what we mean by the definition of an agricultural producer. An agricultural producer is an individual or an entity that produces an agricultural commodity through the participation in their day-to-day labor, management, and field operations. And also, they must produce 51% of the raw commodity and maintain ownership of that commodity throughout the entire process. And within the application, you have to decide what is that you're going to be doing with that raw commodity. We have identified 5 value-added methodologies that you would choose when you're formulating what you're going to do. So one of those is changing in the physical state of the product. This, just as it says there, and it's an irreversible process of when you take a whole cattle and you're then taking it to a processor and putting it into individual cuts of beef. You can't put those cuts of beef back into that one whole cattle. So that's the change in physical state. Produced in a manner that enhances the value of the agricultural commodity. That may be, for example, if you're doing all grass-fed cattle, and is one of those examples. Example include, as it says there on the screen, organic carrots or eggs produced from free-range chickens. I don't think carrots can produce eggs, but you never know. Physical segregation is another methodology. And then the farm or ranch-based renewable energy is also another possible project or that you may choose. And then one that's become more popular in recent years has been the locally produced agricultural food product. This is focusing on the area that you have your commodity and that you're selling in an area, or that you may then want to also expand beyond. And I'll get a little bit more into that expansion in just a moment. And with all of these methodologies, you are looking to increase your customer base and bringing a greater portion of the revenue from your value-added process to bring you more dollars for that commodity that you've produced. Eligible uses of funds. As I've said, we have two tracks with the VAPG grant. We have a planning grant side, and with the planning grant, it will help you with the cost of a feasibility study, a business plan, or a business and marketing plan. Or we have the working capital grant. With working capital grants, projects cannot have a lifetime of more than 3 years. And the expenses must be incurred during the project performance period. The NOSA that comes out each year that dictates how the project will give you more information of the starting and end dates when those are announced. Typically, the NOSA comes out in February of each year. And then it also helps you to get those more finer details that you have to pay attention when you're developing your grant and planning your project. I'm getting a little ahead of myself on my other screen. Just want to make sure that I'm giving you everything you need. Some things that the VAPG grant is not eligible. You can't purchase or lease equipment. You can't do construction project or repair buildings or facilities. We don't allow you to purchase a vehicle or purchase land. We can't pay for costs that happen before the grant is awarded. And we can't pay for help assisting in preparing an application. You can't pay the owner or a family member salaries through a project either. So with the one of the examples with the 5 methodologies, and I was referring to the locally produced portion of methodology earlier, there are 3 different tracks within the working capital projects. An emerging market is one track, and with an emerging market, your product that you're producing has to be a venture that's less than 2 years old, and grant funds would be for $50,000 or more. With that type of application, you do have to provide a feasibility study and a business plan. More of what we see is the market expansion proposals, where you've already been producing, or you have an existing product that you've had in production for at least a minimum of 2 years, and you're wanting to expand that to new markets or to new customer base. With the market expansion proposal, you must submit a business and a marketing plan, but the feasibility studies are not required. And then we also do have a smaller track for the working capital, is for a simplified application. It's for those projects that are for $50,000 or less. You're not required to supply a feasibility study or a business plan, but your application has to demonstrate that you have well knowledge of your project and your product that you're wanting to take to market. And it has to demonstrate that you're going to be increasing your customer base and also the revenues that are returning to you as a result of the project. And with these grants, matching funds is it's a 50-50, so it's a 1-to-1 match. Matching funds have to be for at least 50% of the total project are required. Matching funds also have to be spent at a rate equal to or greater than the grant funds. So we can't give you a reimbursement of more of the federal funds than what you are applying, with your match being either in cash or in kind. And in-kind matching funds can be the value of your raw commodity. You can also do matching funds for family members' time, up to 25% of the total project costs. And just some examples of some of the projects across Kentucky. I believe you heard Need More Acres mentioned earlier. So they've been a recipient of a value-added producer grant a couple of times, in fact, over the past 10 years or so. Some other projects that have been awarded in the state of Kentucky: Among the Oaks was awarded for their herbal teas produced in Lee County. Holbrook Wood Products in Breathitt, Letcher, and Perry counties. And I won't read through all of those, but that just gives you an idea of the different types of projects that have occurred across the state and have been awarded. Paper applications are submitted to the rural development offices. And we do allow you to submit the application up to 14 days prior to the application deadline, so we can give a cursory review of that to make sure that you've got everything in there. There are some other things that you want to be sure of. Again, reading the NOSA is very important, and doing all those other additional steps that are required, such as registering in the SAM.gov system to get your UEI number, also known as the SAM for award management, is required, and registering with the e-clearinghouse is also required. The Value-Added Producers Grant is a national competition. In FY22 or fiscal year 22, there was a total of 32 million in funds available across the country, with 201 projects were funded. Some things for you to keep in mind: applications have to contain all the required information before they're considered for funding, and approximately 30 to 40% of the applications received are determined ineligible because they left something out or something was incomplete. It's a very competitive program. Again, it's a national program, and there are grant writers out there that can assist you with putting your application together, and wonderful folks like those that KCARD that can help assist you through the process. Our funding for fiscal year 24 has not been announced yet. We're expecting the NOSA to come out sometime in late December, early January. But just to give you an idea of what happened in FY23, maximum grant amounts, again, for working capital is of $250,000. The maximum for planning grants is $75,000. The paper applications were due in the middle of May. And you can submit an electronic application as well, and they're generally due about a week before the paper applications would come to us if you're delivering those in person. And tips for preparing not only just the Value-Added Producer Grant, but for any of our programs with USDA. Make sure you qualify. Go to those web links that are provided to see if you're in a rural eligible area. That's for a number of our programs, that's a requirement. There is a wonderful how-to series that you can visit with some great videos and helping to walk you through those different type of applications and what you feel is a mountain of paperwork. Start early. Can't stress that enough for you. Don't think that you're going to pick this up 2 weeks before the application would be due, and think that, well, you might be able to do that. Some people can. I couldn't. but definitely you want to start early and make sure that you're taking care of all those things and those additional requirements that that you would need to do, such as the registration in SAM before you submit your application. And then, keeping yourself up to date, signing up for the different websites like these that are listed here on the webpage for not only the Value Added Producers Grant, but the other programs that are offered through rural development, of what's happening and new things and projects and programs that are coming out and announcements. There's also a wonderful resource with KCARD, and I'm sure I'm going to give you guys another plug with the newsletters that they put out. There's a world of information available to you through them as well. And here's just some more web links for you for how to access the programs for rural development, where our state offices and local contacts may be, specific information for the Value Added Producers Grant. There's a web link here as well. And just to show you where the different offices are across the state. There's my contact information. I work out of the London office over in the southeastern part of Kentucky, but I serve projects across the entire state of Kentucky. So it's not uncommon for me to be working in one state or the other, as a lot of us do. And then we also have Izzy Miller. She's out of the E-Town office. And that's it for me for the Value Added Producer Grant. I know it's a lot of information and a lot more detail. I tried not to get too far down in the weeds, but the best advice that we can give you on any of your programs or projects is, give us a call, talk about your project, and we can, really help you in understanding whether this is a good fit for you at this time, or if you need to do a little bit more legwork and utilizing some of those other resources, whether it's from the state of Kentucky or with KCARD, to help you get where you need to be before you come to us with an application. Any questions for me? I think I saw some stuff popping in the chat.
Yeah, so there's just a few in the chat, and thanks for that, Becky. That's always great information. So the first one is there money available for value adding at the farmer's market by cooking our meat products for sale?
Okay, let me see if I can see the chat, then I can read. Oh, I'm scrolling, sorry. You might want to take control away from me, Taryn.
Yeah, so in the chat, it's just a couple messages back. Sounds like they're asking if they're cooking their meat products at the farmer's market and selling those, if that would be any type of eligible project.
Well, I would have to check more into that. It's, is it the raw, what was the raw commodity? And how is that? And, of course you're at the farmer's market already, but maybe that's something we need to talk about off camera, or if you wanted to give me a call, we can discuss and talk through it a bit more. Cooking food is a little bit different than what I've been exposed to. So I'd have to probably think on that one a little bit more to give you a better answer.
Okay, thanks for that. So there's one more that we've got right now. So could you expand a little bit more on what a majority controlled producer-based venture is? Sounds
Sure.
like person is with a nonprofit grocery store in a food desert. So just curious if there would be any way for them to participate.
Let me see. So the majority, I'm sorry, I'm rolling through the screens here. Oh, there, now I see the meat.
Yeah, I think this one was sent maybe to one of us directly. So,
Okay.
yeah, just if you could elaborate on the majority controlled producer-based venture, if you maybe just an example of what that might look like.
Well, it's again not something that I have typically dealt with. I've been in the value added program myself for a few years. If you'll give me just a second, I'll look up that and give you a better answer. Maybe by the time Andy is finished with his presentation for the REAP project, I can come back to that and give you a better answer for it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. And we should have some time at the end to revisit anything. So yeah, that'll be great.
Okay.
Thank
Great. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and remove your spotlight. And Andy, I've already given you control over the slides. So you should just be able to kind of scroll through those.
There we go.
Yeah, there you got it.
They always let the smarter ones speak first, and Becky did a great job. So now I'm the follow-up act. My name's Glenn Miller. I actually go by Andy. Spent about 30 years in banking. I spent 3 years at the SBA, and then since July of this year, I've been with USDA. So I've been thrown in the deep end on the REAP program. I'm going to try to give you sort of a high level discussion. And then at the end, you'll have my contact information and email. Email is a great way to contact me if you have any questions. Not only can I answer the question, but a lot of times I can give you actually some more information that may help you. I am talking about the REAP, which we're really good at acronyms, and that's the Rural Energy for America program. Let's see if my slide, last week I got a clicker. I like the clicker better, but anyway, I'll take what I can get. The REAP program has actually been around for several years, but it got a great big boost in 2020 with the passing of the IRA, is what most people refer to it, or the Inflation Reduction Act. That increased the funding and over several farm programs, but especially the REAP program. As you can see, it was funded with an additional $2 billion over the next decade to invest in over 45,000 farms and small businesses is sort of the target. 1.7 billion of that went directly to the REAP program. In years past, we would receive application, and we would receive more applications than we had funding. I can tell you for the last 3 quarters and this quarter, we have enough funding that we were able to fund all qualified applicants. This talks about the available funding, and that's sort of what I was talking about. I tend to go off script, but as you can see, this just says there's a lot of money to be had in the program. And we are quite busy. The program is picking up additional steam, but we anticipate funding, hopefully funding most of the applicants that we have for this year. There's a few assistant types. There's the grants, and I'm going to limit my discussion today solely on the grants, but just to say there are loan guarantees out there, and you can use those together in conjunction. But today I'm going to talk about the grants, and the reason I'm going to talk about the grants is grants are able to fund up to 50% of your total project cost. And of course, a grant does not have to be repaid, while a loan does. I was in banking for several years, and I had people that thought loans were also grants. But anyway, project types. And this is sort of when we start getting into the meat of this. The renewable energy systems For Kentucky, my first thought is solar type, and then energy efficiency improvements. Those can vary over many different areas. It can be as simple as changing the lighting to an LED. You can improve your insulation. You may have a convenience store that improves their cooling, their refrigeration. You may update your HVAC system. In farmers, two of the ones that I see the most are grain dryers. It is that time of year where you can purchase a grain dryer and you may be able to receive up to 50% of the total project cost as a grant. We are aimed at two specific types, and the first is the rural small business. You have to meet the SBA size standards, and the easiest way to do that is send me an email, and you can give me your NAICS code, and I'll look it up for you. A business can have many different legal types. You can be private for profit, you can be a co-op, you can be a utility, tribal corporations, LLCs, sole proprietors, all of those would qualify under the small business. The next category, and I'm guessing that may be most of the audience, are the ag producers. For an ag producer, to me, it's a little more simple. You have to receive 50% or more of your gross income from agriculture operations. And for most people, that's fairly easy that are in the farming. You can see the different farming types: crops, livestock, forests, nurseries, dairies, all qualify. You do have to be in an eligible area. And we look that up. We have a map that we can look up. Most of Kentucky will qualify as eligible, but again, I can look that up for you with just your address. Some of the renewable energy projects, as I sort of talked about before, solar is probably the most common that I see in Kentucky. There are others that are eligible. I'd love to talk to somebody about some of these, but for the most part, the people that I talk to, solar is where that's where they're putting in a solar system. Most aren't replacing all of their electricity. They're replacing a portion of their electricity. They may do 20-30%. We've seen some hotels that have installed on the rooftop. And for a lot, the rooftops aren't utilized, so that's actually not taking up any more space, and it's a good use of that. The energy efficiency, I actually highlighted this one because I'm in Ojai County in the western part of the state, and there's a lot of grain farmers around here, and there's most farmers, almost all, dry their grain, and that's been a very common applicant is when they purchase a new grain dryer can receive up to 50%. We have seen some poultry houses where they do fans and ventilation and cooling and things of that nature too. The renewable energy may require, I like this because every time I read it, I learn a little bit more. And the first time I read it, I didn't really understand, and now I do a little bit more. So, it requires a technical report, and that's really, and we also we highly suggest to the grant writers, because it is a competitive process. It is very technical. And it does take a lot of time to put the package together. Typical REAP package will run a minimum of 100 pages, and I've seen several that will be over 200 pages worth of information, including a technical report. The grant writers can assist you if you're replacing equipment, and then the vendor can also help you and can help supply that information. The EEI, or energy efficiency, they require energy assessment. And a lot of that is you compare your electric or your gas, whatever you're replacing. You sort of take the last year of those bills and you analyze those, and then you compare it to what you're purchasing, and it must show an improvement. There is no percentage of improvement on energy efficiency. To me, I thought that was a little bit odd coming from banking. We always seem to have other guidelines, but you only have to show that what you're doing is more efficient from an energy standpoint than what you presently have. Grain dryers, again, I go back to the grain dryers. I've looked at 2 or 3 here in the last few days. I guess I've got grain dryer on the head, but grain dryers are basically LP gas and electricity, small electricity, a whole lot of LP gas. And what you do is you take those bills over 12 months and analyze those, and then you compare it to what the new grain dryer will do. If your grain dryer is 10 years old, I can almost guarantee you the new one's going to be more efficient. This last one down here, I didn't really understand that until about a week ago. It talks about projects involving over 10 acres may require more detailed environmental review. Luckily, you don't have to worry about that. I do. So those get to be a little bit more time consuming. They're not actually a lot of fun. But again, we handle those on our end. Funding requirements for, I'm sorry, I got a little busy today, so I haven't looked at these as much as I would have liked to, even though I've given this one before. This talks about the minimum grant request. For a renewable energy system, the minimum is 2,500. That's not going to be an issue hitting 2,500 on any type of renewable energy. The maximum grant, though, on this is $1 million. So if you were doing solar and you had total project cost of $2 million, then you would max out at $1 million. The energy efficiency improvements, minimum grant request on that is $1,500, and your maximum grant on that is $500,000 or $500,000. I've mentioned eligible project cost. We refer to those as the total project cost. Here's some examples of what can and what can't be into that. This is the point where I do say, and Becky has said it, I think even Frank has said it, it's sort of a common theme in the USDA. Don't move any dirt. Don't do anything until you have an approval. For costs to be eligible, you need to have submitted and received somewhat of a preliminary approval on the grant itself. And I see where people get a little ahead of themselves and they start doing some construction. All of those costs are not eligible. If you've done any type of dirt work, and then you come in to do the grant, those costs that you've expended will not be eligible. Some of the eligible costs, equipment, obviously purchase and installation. And we're talking here post-application. That's exactly what I was talking about, post-application construction. We will send you a letter, and the letter will say you now can proceed with spending money. You can spend it on some professional service fees, permits and licenses, if you're obviously if you're doing any type of construction. The last one is only for the guaranteed loan only. It does not apply to the grant program. The other side talks about some of the ineligible project costs. Residential. We aren't able to do anything residential. This is strictly for ag producers and rural small businesses. So you cannot purchase a solar system and install it to your house. would have to be on the shop or would have to be on a commercial building. Some of the others, the application preparation or grant writer fees, those also are not eligible. So I thought I would point that out. And then there's some of the others that we don't see as much, but remember that the application grant writer fees are not eligible project cost. Now we're to energy efficiency improvements. As you can see, poultry farms, we have probably 4 or 5 that we're doing this quarter. And this is sort of exactly what they're doing. They're doing heating, fans, vents, and controls. Again, it takes an audit, but those really aren't that bad to do. And as long as you can show that it's showing an improvement or a reduction in your energy cost, then that's an eligible project. Here's another local farm, and again, it's sort of showing you what the total project costs are, and then the REAP grant, and then the applicant contribution. This one is a little bit outdated. It was at 20 grants, I think initially were 25% could be a grant, and then a year or so ago, I'm not exactly sure, that I think that went up to 40, and then late last year I think that went up to 50. So some of these numbers might not be exactly correct. You can call me and get current. 50% is sort of the normal REAP grant now. Here's some important information. We accept and process our REAP applications on a quarterly basis. The reason I was really busy today is we're about to send out letters of credit on letters of conditions. I'm sorry, we call that LOC. In 30 years, LOC was a letter of credit. So I'm trying to have to learn the new terminology. But as you can see, we finished and we're about to finish quarter 3. December the 31st is the deadline to get an application in for this current quarter. That actually will be extended just a little bit because December the 31st is a Saturday, I believe, and then Monday is January the 1st, which is New Year's. So January the 2nd will actually be the deadline because that's the next business day. And then you can see the deadlines for the next coming up quarters. January 2nd is the one, and then March the 31st will be the one after that. So these are accepted and processed and awarded on a quarterly basis. As Becky was talking, we do have a lot of useful information. And I've looked at a lot of these myself. I suggest you take some time and look at those. But sometimes the easiest thing to do may just be to reach out to me. There is my email. It's Glenn with 2 N's. .miller@usda.gov. My office, I am in the Madisonville location, and that's the 821-4430. And then my cell phone, 270-841-7864. Again, sometimes the best way, especially if you have sort of a lengthy question, is to email me. And then, like I said, I can research your question. I can give you the best answer, and then I can also send you some additional information. I do maintain a list of our grant writers for the state of Kentucky, and I'll be glad to share those with you. And I'm out of slides, so I must be done. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Yep. Thank you very much for all the information. We did have a question in the chat, but we think it got answered. So I think we are good there. I'm going to stop your slide control. And I'm going to take off your spotlight. All right, up next we have our very own Kara Stewart, and I'm going to spotlight you. And then going to give you slide control.
All right.
All right, there you go.
I love having slide control. They never give it to me, so this is something special. All right, I want to thank everybody that's already talked tonight. We've had a great. This is like Rebecca said. This is the third session. The second night of virtual, but we had 2 in-person sessions that were great as well. So just want to take just a second to thank all of our presenters that have taken their time out of this evening to speak to our group. It's been really, really great. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's see there. No, did I? I don't know if it's let me. Hold on, I'm trying. Give me a second. Wait. There, okay. All right, so AMS grants are ag marketing service grants. There's a couple of those that we deal with. The first one is the local food promotions program, LFPP for short, because, wait, I think I did too many. Let me go back. Did I hit it too many times? Yes, I did. Okay. Because that is the next program. I went way far. I'm impatient. Can you guys tell? Taryn may need to retake control. This is why they don't let me do it. Okay. All right.
If you want, I can do
Everybody-
it, and then you can tell me to move forward if that's easier.
Just do that because I'm not really good with this, evidently.
No worries, I can do that. You just let me know when you want me to advance it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Taryn. Look, all the other professionals could do this. I need a little help. Not surprising to anyone that knows me. All right. AMS grants are ag marketing service grants. A couple of those that we work with, like most things, we love a good acronym. So the first one is going to be LFPP. All right, Taryn, there we go. Or I'm sorry, FMPP. See, I went so far, I jumped over FMPP, Farmers Market Promotion Program. This is a program that we've worked with in the past. Ag businesses, cooperatives, producers, community supported ag, CSAs. Those are all individuals that would be eligible for this USDA grant. These come out in the spring, much like VAPG, which we deal a lot with, do about typically the same time. They'll be coming out after the first of the year. What these are used for are typically to support our farmers markets, doing market analysis, strategic planning, manager training, some things for online sales. So we've had several groups in the last several years being able to apply for and receive this FMPP grant. Works with consumer outreach, producer outreach. Specifically right after COVID, we had a couple that went through and worked very well in getting some technical assistance and marketing assistance as well. So these will be coming out early on in 2024. So kind of like some folks have said, check back with us and work with us and seeing if this would fit into your group. Any farmers market, CSAs, those types of groups. Next we have LFPP. So Taryn, you got it? Okay. I don't have it in front of me yet. Is everybody else seeing it? I'm still on farmers market. Should it be the next one?
I'm showing on mine that it's the LFPP. Is that what? that
And
what
it may
others
be
are saying?
me, but I don't see it.
I tell you what,
Oh, there it
gonna-
is.
Okay.
I got it. It popped up. I think it's me. I'm running a little slow. I'm going to turn my camera off. Maybe that will help my end. LFPP is the local food promotion program. Here's one that we've worked with a lot of different producers, associations, ag businesses. Again, helps with things like feasibility studies, technical assistance providers, work on expansion of food incubator programs or mid-tier value chains, all those wonderful buzzwords that we're used to these days. Works with groups in kind of helping connect those local food chains, keeping food local, getting it out to markets, helping development those markets to get that food distributed out, those types of things. Here again, this AMS grant will come out roughly the same time as FMPP, as well as the VAPG programs that USDA has through rural development. So all of these kind of roll out about the same time because we love to have all of the grant programs running at once. That's our favorite. All right, next up is, so this is a program that we think will be coming out early to mid 24. The Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Program. Here again, like I said, we like a lot of acronyms. So RFSI, if you hear that, this came about, USDA put out requests for proposals from each Department of Ag. So each state's Department of Ag, they were given specific guidelines for each state to put together. So the state put together a proposal for amount of money for the state to distribute to farmers. Our state was approved back in September, I believe. They have sent
I'm not sure where Carol went. Carol, we're not able to hear you. Are you still on there? I know Kara's been having some internet trouble, so let's give her just a minute. We will reach out to her to see if she will be coming back on. Oh, yep, there she went away. Sorry about that, folks.
I'm sorry that I'm
oh,
back.
Okay.
I do apologize.
Okay.
I got kicked off. My Wi-Fi is so fun sometimes. But
That's
as I
okay.
was saying, the resilient food systems infrastructure, we're hoping to see that early to mid 24. You guys can read on there. I won't read all that to you, but it was really built around supplying funds to producers that don't typically fit into some of the other categories. So really trying to get that money out in the hands of the producers when they need it, how they need it, where they need it. So be looking for some more information from us on that in the coming months. All right, Taryn. All right, Regional Food Center, the Business Builder Grant Program. Here's another one that is kind of a sneak peek. We know that we have some regional food centers that across the country that are working on these business builder grants. Kentucky is working with a region here. Appalachia, I believe that West Virginia maybe is in on our regional food center. But we are working with those individuals to kind of put together here again what the grant would look like, what they're looking to fund. Those applications haven't been finalized yet again, but we were blessed enough to be able to, Kentucky was to be part of a regional food center. Therefore, we're going to see some of these subawards come back to our farmers in the next coming months. Here again, we're looking to see these start rolling out in early 24. And again, you can read on there what we expect. Maybe some of them are going to be funding, but we haven't seen anything set in stone just yet. However, once we do hear about it, it will be going out in our Funding Matters and our newsletters. All right. Climate smart commodities. So these are more small business, nonprofit organizations, those types of things that we work for. It kind of makes me think of some of the stuff Andy was talking about, wanting to implement large scale climate smart practices in a certain area, promoting climate smart commodities, developing markets. These have been rolling out kind of throughout the last year or two. And we have an additional round of funding that we expect to see here again, as most grants will be rolling out the first quarter of 24. We expect to see this as well. And I think Maddie has put the link for some of these to get a little more detailed for you guys in the chat. All right. All right, Taryn.
So there are some folks that I'm not sure who they are in the chat. We were expecting Tiffany to come and talk about this. Is Tiffany on? Or someone here to talk about that? There's a handful of folks in the state that are trained, and we weren't really sure. We thought it was going to be Tiffany, but it might not be Tiffany. All right. So I apologize that they're not on here. But so we're going to talk just quickly about it. Kara, do you mind to talk a little bit about it? I'm going to go to the slide that has their contact information while you give just a little bit of a background on it. Oh, it's the first slide that is the contact information. I think. Okay, Kara might be having some internet trouble. So this program was designed.
I'm back, but if you want to go ahead, Taryn, I apologize, guys. I just keep getting kicked off. And the sad part is I'm all by myself here at home. I don't know what, nobody else is using the internet.
A-okay. I do not mind to talk about it one bit. So this program, so this is what we have on the screen right now. That is who you would contact to help you with the program through the application. The application is a pretty significant application. I looked at it, they printed it out during our training, and it's at least 50 pages. So it's pretty significant. But this is a program for people who have experienced discrimination when trying to go get like a USDA loan. The discrimination can fit across many different avenues. It can be race, religion, but it can also even be discrimination based on like the size of your farm, things like that. So if you feel like you were discriminated against, this could be an option for you. There is some deadlines. So the discrimination had to have happened before January 1st, 2021. So if it's a recent instance, it wouldn't qualify under this program. And the deadline to apply for it is fast coming. It is January the 13th. So if you want more information about that program, reach out to these folks. And you can reach out to us if you want to kind of go over, if you think you might be eligible. We're happy to talk to you about that. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and scroll on. Give me just a second because there are a lot of slides in here. All right. So now back to me. So on the very first night on Tuesday, we talked about the first 3 pieces of a business plan. We talked about how, it was important to give a good summary, do market research, show what your operation looks like, all of that. So now we get to talk about the most fun part of the business plan, the money. Now, this is also sometimes the part that can be most stressful for folks potentially, because sometimes it's stressful to talk about money. I know where I'm from, you don't talk about money. You don't talk about your finances to people. And so here we come along and we're like, hey, how much money you making? And that can be a very intimidating process. I can assure you that we're asking you these questions because we want to help your business. So what does that look like? So essentially, to put it very, very simply, which I'm going to get more complicated, but the simple part first is we want to look at all of the money that is going out of the business. So all of those expenses and all of the money coming into the business, your revenue. Now, those can look so different. If you're a startup, you may not really have done any of that yet. Nothing might be coming in. There might be a lot of going out. But we can look at startup cost, help you estimate what it would cost to get everything up and running. Or even if it's an expansion, it doesn't have to be a startup, but if you're adding on, we can look at those things and help you with that. Or maybe you've been going at it pretty hard for a few years and you just feel like maybe the profits aren't there, when maybe they weren't what you were expecting. So we really look at all of those things and help figure out, where are some things that you could modify? How could you be more efficient? We're also going to help you project those things out. So typically we do projections for 3 years. So that way you can see, maybe you had a whole lot of upfront cost, but now you can see that, oh, if I project out for 2 more years, that's when I'm going to start making that profit. So all of those things are things that we can help look at. We look at those things for a number of reasons. First, again, to kind of help make sure that you're getting as much money as possible, but also to help figure out where you could possibly use some of these programs that you've been learning about. So that very first night, remember I talked about how I was going to be a tomato farmer. I was going to have the best tomatoes in Barron County. Well, I'm going to switch tonight, and tonight I'm going to be a dairy farmer. Okay. So maybe my dairy, I have just, I've been bottling white milk, and I've decided that I'm going to try doing chocolate milk. Okay. So now I have a value-added product. And maybe through Lindsay's program, maybe I am expecting an increase in my demand because I'm starting to sell through this program. So I may come and I say, oh, I need help with a bottler. I need an automatic bottler to help me fulfill all of this stuff. That's great. There's programs out there that we can help you with that. But if we don't take a deep dive into all the money coming in, all the money going out, then we never see how much money you're spending in bottles, in packaging, in labels, in labor, all of those things that Becky talked about through a VAPG. So these financial sections really help us see that full picture of how we can help your business. So on the screen, we look at a couple different things. We look at even inventory management and how and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about record keeping because Kara will be kind of going more into detail about that in just a second. But, we work with farms that do anything and everything in between, having a piece of paper that they write down all of their ins and outs, to people who use QuickBooks. Some people have ledgers that they keep track of everything in. I think kind of the main thing that I see is that people don't keep track of things. You know, they don't keep track of how much their seeds were, how much their plants were, how much their feed was for their herd. And, you know, whenever we're spending out money, you know, we want to be able to track that, because we want to be able to, again, see that full picture. That can look so different to every single person. I'm a big fan, huge fan of Excel spreadsheets. I will make an Excel spreadsheet for anything and everything I can make an Excel spreadsheet for. I will do that. So for me, I would be keeping an Excel spreadsheet, but my parents use a ledger, so that works for them. We just really encourage tracking. The best time to start tracking for your business was at the beginning. The second best time to track is today. So just keep, and we're getting ready to come into the new year, new you, new method of tracking. It's not something that you have to do every day, but you have to have a system for it in place. So that way, you know, maybe once a week you put everything down. Essentially, this is really going to help in all aspects. You know, if you understand where the money is going and where the money is coming from, you really reduce your risk. And insurance is going to be a factor in here. You know, we want to make sure that you are properly insured, and that, you know, you can look at that risk in a good manner. Essentially, in a business plan, we typically do these 3 things. We don't have to. There's some business plans that maybe it's just one of them. You know, it's really just up to that business, what that business needs, what the program they're applying to needs. You know, if it's a loan, you know, what does that bank want from you? You know, that then we can help you get those things. So a balance sheet, income statement, and a cash flow statement. Balance sheet, just think of that as like one point in time, what you own and what you owe. An income statement, that's more of a period of time. And that can, you know, vary depending on what you're needing it for. And then a cash flow statement. So only that's your cash in and cash out. I think I've already kind of talked about that. I tend to talk a lot and not remember what is all on my slides. All right. Has Kara made it back into here?
I think she made it back on and then maybe got kicked back off.
Okay, well, I will do my best to cover her section of the record keeping. I've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but we're kind of at that point now. We're kind of pulling everything back together. So record keeping, one of our big sayings at KCARD is you cannot manage what you cannot measure. Remember back on that very first night on Tuesday, which seems a lot longer than just a day or two ago. But we talked about having goals and having those goals be something that you can measure. So I know that we kind of keep talking about that, but we really feel like it's that important. You know, when you're going for, you know, grants, loans, you know, they're looking for you to really understand what your business is doing. And so being able to track those things allows you to measure all of that. All right. And again, you're going to need that for your taxes. You know, we're kind of focusing on funding, but your tax preparation is going to want that as well. So what should you keep track of? Kind of everything. This is a pretty decent list. You know, anything that you are spending money on your business for. You know, sometimes people even have, for example, if you have a building that you do a lot of the preparation in, there's people who have those buildings on a second meter. maybe they don't have to have it on a second meter. A lot of electric companies do require you to have a second meter on a separate building, but some don't. But a lot of people still put it on a second meter. So that way, they can keep that electric bill separate for the business. Some people do water lines the same way. That might be getting a little too in the weeds, but hey, it's up to you. You can decide on that. But essentially, you're wanting to track anything and everything that helps you decide how much it costs you to produce your product. One thing that I know a lot of my clients tend to forget about is gas. It's part of that distribution cost. People will say, oh, well, I'm just going to the farmer's market. Well, yeah, but you're having to drive to the farmer's market. How far away is the farmer's market? How many days are you having to go to the farmer's market? Gas can get expensive. So that's something that you can overlook pretty quickly. So anything and everything that is part of your business, you should be tracking.
Karen, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm back on my phone. I want to thank you. You're doing a fabulous job. I can answer questions, but I did have to resort to my phone. So you're doing a great job.
Okay, I'm going to keep talking. You fill in. How about that?
You go for it. I'm loving it. You're doing a great job. Keep going.
So I kind of mentioned a second ago that really, however you want to keep track of your records, that's up to you. My parents every year purchase a big, huge ledger, and every day they write in it. I've had folks that will purchase 12 single bound, like spiral bound notebooks, and each month is a notebook, and they write everything down in that notebook for that month, even including like notes about things, revenue, expenses. People do QuickBooks. It's really and truly whatever system works for you. Oh, wait, I went the wrong way. There we go. So qualities of a good grant proposal are all of these things we've already talked about, making sure that you understand your business, making sure that you understand really and truly what you're asking for, and you're prepared to do the things for it. I think most of the people who have talked in this will tell you that sometimes the record keeping portion is definitely the harder part. So if you get a VAPG grant, there's going to be certain things that they expect from you. And if your record keeping is not organized, if it's not efficient, if you don't have a system in place, that's going to be much harder for you. So qualities of a good grant, making sure that your program purpose equals the project goal. So a lot of people will go, well, isn't there a grant for fill in the blank? And sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't, based on what it is. But just because it's something you need doesn't mean that there's a grant out there for it. And it doesn't mean that just any grant will fund what you're needing. So you want to make sure that you understand what the grant is asking for and that is what you can provide it. So who is the applicant? Who's going to be part of the project? Is it just you? Are you partnering with people? Are you the main person on the grant? Are you going to have multiple people? So who is that person? Who is that entity? And what is your plan? Do you know what you want to accomplish? It can't be just, well, I just want to help my business. A lot of grants fund projects. I will never forget, I was working for a different entity at the time, but the funder in the room, the person handing out the money, stood up and said, we fund projects. We don't fund your yearly costs. We fund projects. And I've never really forgotten that. It's not always true, but it is true in so much of the instances. So just kind of keep that in mind. What is that project that you're going to accomplish? How does that fit in with your goals? So I'm going to go back to my tomato farm, and remember, I'm not handing out zucchini recipes. So if I'm, applying for a VAPG grant, I'm not going to force something to fit that doesn't fit into my mission. So you kind of always have to remember what your business values are. And time. Oh my goodness. When we say that it can take months to prepare a grant, we're not kidding. That's reality. You have to allow time to write, research, gather materials for the grant. Some grants take longer than others, but we're here to help you, absolutely. But if you come to us and say, "Oh, I want to go for XYZ grant, it's due tomorrow," more than likely our response is going to say, "Are you sure?" You might want to think about how much work goes into that, because we just aren't sure. We won't be able to guarantee that you can get it finished by then, depending on the grant, of course. Some are small, and you might be able to do it, and some are rather large. Kara, do you have anything to add to that?
So the only thing I would say about that part is when you're looking at the time, think about those other things. It's not just the writing of the grant portion. It's if it specifically needs to have, if you need to have a SAM's number, if you need to have a UEI, register for SAM.gov, have a UEI number, grants.gov. Those things take time, not just for you to fill out, but to get information back from the sources. So they're going to need the time to reply. Make sure that you're registered with Secretary of State. You're going to have time, like Taryn said, to have these pieces built up, your business plan, your financials put together. So yes, you may be able to answer the questions, but you're not going to be able to fill in and have all your supporting documents in just a week or so. So, you need to add those other things into your time frame as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so just kind of wrapping up some do's and don'ts. Do start early and talk your project through. Make sure it's eligible. We can help you with that. Any of the folks that we have had on this call can help you with that. Like Kara said, register, check on your UEI number with SAM.gov. And one real quick plug. If anybody ever tries to get you to pay for SAM.gov, that's a scam. Do not ever do that. SAM.gov is free. You do not have to pay for that. And there are lots of scams out there that look very, very legitimate. Unfortunately, I've known a number of entities that have fallen prey to that. So just a quick little plug. SAM.gov.
And we can help you with that too. If you need help, because it can be tedious and it can be a little mind-wrenching to try to walk through SAM.gov and grants.gov. So know that you do have a resource in KCARD, and we can help you and walk through that process with you. We understand how hard it is.
Yeah. We are happy to review anything for you. Some people prefer to write everything and then just have us review it and get comments. We're happy to do that. We do not write grants for you, but we significantly hold your hand. So we're happy to do that. Have a plan of sending it in. Some you're going to email, sometimes you're going to drop it off, sometimes you're going to send it in the mail. You just really need to make sure that you understand how you get the grant to the funder. We've had folks who put the wrong address on stuff, who have not had internet connection go down the day that they're trying to submit it on grants.gov. So just a plan and then maybe a backup plan for how you're going to submit, because you don't want to get to the day that you're trying to submit it and something just go wrong and you've put all this work into an application and you're not able to submit it. Try not to wait until the program opens to start working on it. Now, sometimes that's not going to be possible. You may not know that it was a thing until you found out about it and now it's open. But that's why we try to have things like this. That's why we send out the Funding Matters newsletters. we want to make sure that people have plenty of time, plenty of a heads up, knowing what's coming. So the quicker you can work on, if you know that you're going to be writing, for example, the VAPG, and you know that's going to need a business plan, you can do that now. You don't have to wait until it opens to start that. Don't always assume that your SAM.gov registration is okay, because time goes by very fast, and what you think may have been just a month ago may have been 2 years ago. So check on your SAM.gov registration if you've already done it. Make sure it's up and good. Please don't submit a project that doesn't line up with your goals, or submit a project that you don't understand. Sometimes we get so involved in like getting the money that becomes the goal instead of our values of our business. So always have that in your mind. Like, what are the values of my business? Does this line up with what I'm wanting to accomplish? That's one reason, again, why we really suggest having those goals lined out, so you always have those instructions. And please don't call us a week before and tell us you're ready to start your application. That's going to be very difficult, especially depending on the application. Again, allow yourself and us plenty of time to help you. All right. That is the end of our workshop. We very much appreciate you all being here. We'll kind of hang out for a minute to answer any questions that you all may have. Otherwise, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We're here to help you. But yeah, we really appreciate all of you coming to our workshop.
Erin, I just wanted to say thank you again. I dropped a link into the chat to an individual earlier, and I didn't mean to. I meant to send it to the group, so I reposted it again. There's another resource at farmers.gov for new and beginning farmers. So I posted that there. You should check it out. Just another good resource for you, for those folks that are interested in it. And also, please feel free to reach out to me or Andy with any of your questions about not only the value added program or the REAP program. In the rural business division that Andy and I work in, we administer about 25 to 30 different programs. So if it's not something that's actually ag, if it's a small business program, there's a lot of different things. So if you've got a project or something that you're interested in, please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to give some time to you to discuss it and see if it's something that would fit within one of our programs. So thank you all again. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I think we can, let's go ahead and stop the recording. That's what I need to do.